These are 12 commander cards that are just super cool.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, which means we have videos every single day, which means you can go to Patreon, check them out, check out the perks you can get if you support us with your actual dollars.
Yes, and also another way to support this channel indirectly, because Patreon is obviously directly just giving us money so we can eat food, is Cool Stuff Inc. Go there, buy the Magic cards you were going to buy anyway. Who are you kidding? We're all Magic players. We're going to buy Magic cards. And if you use code
Nerds.
And if you use code
Nerds.
Well, when you use code NERDS, then you will be getting 5, I'm making up numbers now, 5% off your order. And all you have to do is use our code, and you buy the same cards. They're all at great prices. They have sealed product, too, if you're looking to get sealed product.
15 is actually the number of seconds it takes to save 5%.
Yes, Yes, that is what it was. Maraschiello, they have the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
And honestly, we use them on every single one of our decks, have for years. Why don't you try getting their custom sleeves? Any silly thing you want to put on a sleeve, you go there, start with our link in the description, and then you'll be supporting the Nerds EU, US link, both down there, and you can get any silly thing you want on those cards.
Stay tuned for a Moxfield ad somewhere in the video. You won't be able to predict it. We're going to keep you on your toes, but you can feel free to guess. You will be wrong.
And guess who's actually sponsoring this whole entire video?
I don't know.
It's IntoTheAM. And IntoTheAM is an apparel brand. Shirts we wear every single video. And we got some new designs. Why don't we, what are you wearing today with your new design?
It's called RBT. It's a really big tree.
A really big tree, yeah. And I'm just wearing Spaceman, very colorful, close up, in front of Saturn, I believe that is. That is Saturn itself.
Cool guys don't look at Saturn.
Yeah, cool guys don't look at Saturn. That is also a great name for this shirt. They have so many awesome graphic tees. Starting on the 11th, going through the 14th, that's May 11th through the 14th, you can get 25% off. 25% off graphic tees. And guess what? The best part of IntoTheAM is their graphic tee design. They have amazing artists making amazing looking shirts. Like, honestly, every single one just looks so good.
If you were on the fence and you're like, those shirts are pretty cool, Nitpicking Nerds seem pretty high on them, well, now's the time to go buy them. Go use our link in the description so they know that we sent you.
Yeah, they'll know we sent you, and you'll be able to save 20% off because that's the sale that's going on, baby.
But this video is all about cards that are undeniably cool.
Yes, these cards are awesome. They are some of the cards that see more play maybe than they should because they're just so cool. What you're doing is the coolest thing. Now, a lot of these cards are good. Some of them are medium. Regardless, they all have one thing in common, and that is the coolness, the it factor that you can't quite explain. It's like, why is this card cool? I don't know. It's just pretty cool.
It's part of the reason if we say that we don't play these cards, people get mad because they're really cool.
Yes, exactly. So let's start with a cycle of cards. It is the Swords of X and Y, and I think these are the coolest equipment ever printed, other than maybe Colossal Hammer. It's the only thing ever competing with it. But these cards are amazingly cool. Every single one of them is taking two elements, combining them into a sword, and now you have this amazing. All of them have awesome art, combining the one color with the other color on the sword to make it look awesome. And that's why these cards are played so much, is because they're so cool. Now, the effects are all pretty decent. The main issue these cards tend to have when you're talking about them is that you have to make sure you're connecting, which you can't always guarantee. But they're, like I said, coolness factor just outweighs anything when you talk about these cards.
Yeah, so we got the whole cycle's done. We got Truth and Justice, Once and Future, Sinew and Steel, Forge and Frontier, Hearth and Home, Light and Shadow, Feast and Famine, Body and Mind, Fire and Ice, and War and Peace.
Yeah, BZ got through them all. Yeah, and every single one of them is just, they're amazingly cool. The real question is, what is the worst one in Commander? Because I just saw this. Krim, the Asian Avenger, thinks Body and Mind isn't the worst one, but it just is, right?
What did he say was the worst one?
He didn't say, but it was more like the discussion was it was just Saffron Olive brought up that the only card the only person he knows that likes Body and Mind is Krim, and Krim kind of posted, yeah, but I don't think it's the worst sword, and didn't say anything else.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad, because the truth of the matter is, with that sword, art is cool. It's super cool.
You're like, okay, 2/2, all right, that's fine. Milling my opponent 10? Can I not do that?
It's an upside for your opponent. I know some decks are complete mill and focus on that, and that's where it kind of slots in. But milling your opponent 10 is going to give them advantage. You can give them more choice for their reanimation, their regrowth effects. Every single one of these things, just don't mill your opponent's 10.
I'll do a short where I rank all the swords power-wise, but it doesn't really matter because they're really cool. They give protection. They're Voltron-esque. You can suit them all up with the same ones or with different ones because they're all colorless. It's just pretty sweet. It's just fun to do. Not the best cards in the world, but they're freaking cool.
Yeah, and if you shoot up with the 3 of the right swords, boom, protection from all 5 colors, and it's +6/+6. This thing's a beast. It's not being blocked. It's getting in.
What's the next one?
The next one is one of my favorite cards of all time, Itali Primal Storm. And this is a giant dinosaur that summons storms. I mean, it just doesn't get much cooler than that. This thing is labeled as an Elder, which means it's been around a long time. It's out there. And now, the reason I brought up Itali Primal Storm as opposed to the new one, Itali Primal Sickness / Itali Primal Conqueror, is because this one is a worse card. The new one is just kind of a really, really good magic card, and it is cool. It's one of the coolest cards of all time. But Itali has been out there in Commander decks all the time. And yes, when you swing, there is card advantage to be had, but you have to untap with this thing. It's 6 mana. You do have to get in. It dies often because people know how good the attack trigger is. It's still one of the coolest cards of all time.
It's also the random factor. Like, okay, yeah, I'm going to play Itali Primal Conqueror all day because it's guaranteed 5 for 1. This isn't really guaranteed anything. I want to, earn it.
Yes, and like I said, giants, it's undeniable. Dinosaurs are cool. Jurassic Park made sure of that in the early 90s, that dinosaurs are now cool. It is undeniable.
This is one of the coolest ones.
And this is one of the coolest ones. Like you said, imagine a dinosaur, huge, gigantic, just scary as can be.
He's ripping through fog too. You can't even see him for a second, then he's just there.
Well, yeah, and imagine that giant dinosaur, and with him is just a thunderstorm because it follows him, because he brings the storm, because he's this. Oh, it's such a cool factor. Like you said,
where's that in Jurassic Park?
Yeah, the randomness does make it so much cooler because, like you said, if this was tutor your opponent's deck and put any card to play, it's that's less cool. It's much cooler when you're doing some random flipping.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to get.
All right, next to the card that is undeniably good, but with its undeniable goodness is also an incredible cool factor. It is Scoot Swarm. And Scoot Swarm says, when a land enters, make a 1/1 insect. But if you have 6 lands in play, now when a land enters, make a copy of Scoot Swarm. So these things swarm you. There's scoots everywhere. And they get so big. And the fact is, we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the video. Doubling is just cool. When you're doing so, every single time you make a Scoot Swarm and it's a copy, it's 2, 4, and then 8, then 16. It's these numbers are small because after that it just starts. It ramps up. It's exponential. It's this graph. Whee, right up to
geometric. I don't remember.
Whatever. Straight to the moon. That's where they're going.
It's 32, 64, 128. How many? 128's already enough to kill everybody.
It's already enough to kill everybody. And this card is just that factor. And I love the idea of it. The mental image you get. It's these are all little bugs, and that's what's killing you. It's not by itself. It's a 1/1.
It's a tidal wave.
Yes, exactly. But it's not that. It's oh, here, if I swing up my 1/1 bug, it's what is that? Nothing. But there's so many of these insects that you this. Yeah, like you said, a tidal wave. Just they're gonna kill you. It's so cool.
You could canonically, according to lore, you could canonically flood Zendikar with Scoot Swarms. And one of the reasons this card is so cool is that it's single-handedly changed how Arena works, because people were just making too many Scoot Swarms. It was crashing the game. That's cool.
Yeah, it is. This card is literally just undeniably cool. It is so many tokens so fast. A fetch land, you're at 4. You play this, you play a fetch land. Oh, boop, we're already to 4 of them, and now we're off to the races.
Second fetch land, 16.
All right, let's move on to the next one. It is Valki, God of Lies / Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. And now this comes from a lore perspective. This comes from lore with the Norse gods too. So much of this makes it a cool card. So Valki is essentially Loki, who is already one of the coolest Norse gods. I mean,
he's a trickster.
He's the trickster god, and now he's God of Lies here rather than being a trickster. He's more lie. But it's not even actually him, because on the backside it's Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter, who was a meme, right? He was an absolute meme of a character, and now they took him and they rebranded him as something powerful. And now this he draws 4 cards when he pluses. This card is good, and it's a removal spell when you need it to be. Not that you want it to be a removal spell, but ultimately I've tested this card a lot. It's a medium effect, but it's still so cool. The reason I put this in my deck isn't just because oh, 7 mana Planeswalker plus to draw 4 cards and some other upside. It's not because of that. It's because this is one of the coolest cards I've ever seen.
They took Tybalt, who's a meme, and they turned him into, like, I don't know if you want to say the primary antagonist or the secondary antagonist of, like, an entire set, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Like we said, the 2 mana Tybalt, the old one, was like, they're like, what can we do with a 2 mana Planeswalker? And they made this terrible thing because they were trying to be super careful, and it became a meme of the Magic community. And then they made Wrenn and 6, and it's like, wow, well, why do we even bother?
What is happening?
It's like, why couldn't Tybalt just be that good?
Why couldn't Tybalt be half that good?
Why couldn't Tybalt be 1/17 that good?
Literally, the card's insane. But so Tybalt is just like, you're not breaking the format in half, but you're having a lot of fun drawing a million cards with it, and then kind of just stay there. And you're like, I get to play with your cards. It's always fun. And it's just, I like that they also, I think now it might be intentional that Valky's 2 mana. Because, like, there's your 2 mana Tybalt, folks.
I never would have thought of that. Not even, it's possible that was intentional, but I would have never thought of that. The next one is Maelstrom Nexus. Wooburg, 1 of each mana, so that you can cast this enchantment. The first spell you cast each turn has Cascade. This is not a bad card, but the fact that it says only the first spell kind of brings it down, because this is always your first spell, so it's kind of tough to have another spell that turn that will Cascade. But how cool is this idea? One, it is the Maelstrom Nexus. So when we go back to the Alara times.
Yeah, if you were around during Alara when I first started playing, that was the reason everything was all screwy.
Yes, and this is one of the quintessential 5-color cards from that set.
It was one of the first 5-color cards, right? I mean, we get them all the time now, but this was one of the OGs.
Yeah, this is probably one of the first 10 or 20.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, first 10 or 20, and it's just so cool. I mean, Cascade is already a cool mechanic. I love the idea of all right, let's see what we get. It could be anything. It could literally be one of the worst cards in my deck. It could be one of the best cards in my deck. We don't know what this is going to hit. That's cool within itself. And the fact that it's your first spell every single turn. You can cast 12 drops and get it. You can cast a 1-drop and guarantee that 0-drop in your deck is going to be the thing you hit. It's very cool. It's very fun.
Yeah, I think Cascade they go pretty overboard with. So, before Joda and Maelstrom Wanderer and, Emoti, this is this is a totally reasonable way to give your things Cascade without making everybody want to die.
I've never had a chance to put this card in the deck, but like I said, for coolness, I would love to put in this deck. And perhaps the coolest thing on this whole entire list is Moxfield.com, the best deck building website in the universe, in the multiverse, in the...
Cosmos,
in the... Nope, I'm out of stuff.
Cosmos covers it, I think.
Cosmos covers almost anything. Moxfield.com is the best place to go to build your decks. We had a chance over the weekend to meet Harry and John, the creators of Moxfield.
Coolest
Not only
dudes
is
ever.
this website amazing, over the top, perfect. It's where we go to build our decks. It's synonymous with deck building for us. If I'm building a deck,
Moxfielding a deck.
The first thing I do is open up Moxfield so that I can build that deck. John and Harry are amazing human beings. Like I said, I spent the weekend, got dinner with them, could not say better things about them. As good as Moxfield is, somehow they're better than their website because they're that good of humans.
If you want to support them, just use Moxfield. Stop using Redacted. Nobody likes it. It's not as good as Moxfield. The UI is better, and Harry and John are better.
Yes, Harry and John are better than everyone in the world. All right, let's move on to Doubling Season. And now Doubling Season is a good card for your Planeswalker decks. If you play this and then you play a Planeswalker with an ultimate, you ultimate that Planeswalker, you go crazy, go over the top. Really, really strong card. But I mentioned before, doubling. Now it's literally in the name. Doubling what you're doing is so cool. There's something about it. There's something about instead of doing it once, do it twice. It is such a cool little factor that takes this card from this would be a good playable card. Don't get me wrong. People would have this in plenty of decks. But I think it gets even more decks. It's like, oh my God, I double what I'm doing. Double?
This card is not $100 good. It's not even $50 good. It's okay, and it's really good in exactly one deck, the Planeswalker deck, in terms of power. But just doubling everything you're doing, there's a certain Timmy factor to it. We're like, whoa, you're just going off. And I think even the Planeswalker thing is probably the coolest part, where you're just like, yeah, remember this Planeswalker? You know how they suck in this format? Ultimate right now.
Here's my big giant Ugin. Oh, and then I ultimate it. And I draw 7 and I put 7 more Planeswalkers in play.
Ultimate those. That's awesome.
And this thing just lets you do that. This card is the reason you can do awesome stuff like that. I mean, come on. Doubling Season is undeniably one of the coolest cards in the whole format.
Speaking of doubling, I think we can go to Taveri's Ageless Insight, which says that if you draw a card Other than the first one on your draw step, you get to draw an extra card, which is so many cards, and if you're starting to stack them up, you can't lose.
Yes. So Teferi's Ageless Insight is we've seen this before. There's like it's something reflection.
Thought reflection.
There's Elhammerit's Archive. We've seen these kind of cards before in the past. I think what really makes this one special to me is the fact that it does the double, but also it has Teferi as part of it. Teferi is one of the coolest characters in Magic lore. It has a staff in it. This is representative of Teferi, who I absolutely love as a character. So not only is this a cool doubling effect for doubling up all of your draws except for your first one each turn, which we have. There are other cards. I think those are all cool as well. We also get a reference to Teferi, who I consider one of the just coolest characters in the Magic universe.
I think he has the most lore out of almost any Magic character at this point. He's been everywhere.
And it's so cool because Teferi has come from so far back in history of the game. Like he is the card Disruptive Student, which is so cool to think about. You get to see this, like, he's a young, like, little prankster
making fart machines,
literally making fart machines and like spitballs in class, to this well-developed character in like
saving the multiverse.
And it's just this is just another card that's just a part of that, a little piece of that lore, while being an awesome mechanical card.
But they took out all the boring, like, they took out all the parts of all the other cards and made them so pricey. And they're like, okay, you actually have to work for it. You can't just draw 2 per turn. And they're like, well, anything else you draw, though, is doubled. I'm like, great, that's all I wanted anyway. I don't want to pay 7 mana for this. And I don't really want to pay 7, which is actually 8 mana for this next one, but it's really cool, so I'm going to do it anyway. Sunforger, 3 to play, 3 to equip, and then now once it's equipped, you can pay red and white and unattach it to go find any instant that's red or white that costs 4 or less from your deck and cast it for free. This is like a red-white toolbox type card. It's really, really satisfying. It's really fun. Everybody loves Sunforger. People put Sunforger in decks. It has no business being in. And not only are they putting Sunforger in, they're making a package of 10 cards that warps their entire deck to where they go, is that a Queen Barchessa deck? Nope, it's just a random Sunforger deck, and that's cool.
Yeah, Sunforger is, without a doubt, when you get it going, it does work, it does do good things, it is very toolboxy, but ultimately you're always going to be overpaying for the spell, because even if, let's just say you cheated Sunforger in play, the equip plus the de-equip to go get whatever you're getting is always more mana than what the card is. The idea is a tutor, you automatically cast it for free.
It's any card.
And yes, so there is a lot more to this card. I've been very low on this card for a long time, but I understand that it does do powerful things in the game of Commander, and I've seen it before, and it's been impressive many, many times, but it's cooler more than anything. Like you said, this is, it warps your deck, you build around it, you put this hammer onto it, and then you remove it. This one is not canonical at all, because like from a lore perspective, this is, I don't care what this thing. It's
nothing.
It's just a hammer. But like in gameplay perspective, it's very cool. You jump through a hoop, you do a lot, you pay the mana. You're not cheating anything, and then you get the thing. And because of all the hoops you jump through, you're rewarded, and you do get rewarded with something very strong.
All right, next is a character even cooler than Teferi. This is the coolest character in Magic. I don't even care what you're saying. And she got real cool right when she got Elspeth, Sun's Champion, the card. Oh my god. 6 mana, +1, make 3 dudes. You can kill a thing. You can kill the things that are giant, like Pelucranos in the flavor, and you can just ultimate to win the game. Elspeth was like the dominant card, even more so than Thoughtseize in that format. It was just the coolest, biggest, splashiest thing you can do in Standard. In Commander, does that translate? Not really, but guess what? It's freaking awesome.
I have been more and more impressed with Elspeth, Sun's Champion in Commander as a card. But that being said, Planeswalkers do have the big glaring weakness of being attackable in a format where you have 3 opponents that can attack it. So that is a huge weakness. Elspeth has just, over the years, she gets cooler and cooler and cooler.
She's
and
like a god now.
And like you said, it started with this card. She has become an angel. Like canonically, she's an angel now. She is more powerful than ever before. She is the reason for the downfall of New Phyrexia.
And she's slicing Vorinclex's head off with like one swing.
She killed them all pretty much. Maybe not literally them all, but she killed like 3 of them. She's just out there absolutely destroying. She's super strong canonically, though her new cards are not that strong. That's why this card is good, because this card is the strongest Elspeth card that we have. And it's encapsulated with the start of like her arc. Like this is like Elspeth had gone through some stuff up to that. Like she had that with the Phyrexians. She has the fear of them.
She was on Alara.
And then and then you come to Theros, and she's here. She's killed at this point. At this point, she's dead. But then the start of her death up to her rise to an angel is super cool. There's so much cool stuff about Elspeth as a character. And this card, like you said, card is so cool on top of it.
I feel like that was one of the first story beats too, where you're just like, there's no way Elspeth's staying dead when they kill her on the Greek, underworld plane, and it's like, I cannot wait to go back. And then they were kind of like, okay, here's that awesome story you're waiting 10 years for with no story. But I think they're releasing it. I don't know. Anyway, it's awesome.
Yes. All right. Moving on. We have Ink Shield.
Oh, God, this card's so bad.
It's a fog. I mean, it's a 5-mana fog, and that's what you have to start with. 5-mana fogs are not very strong. This is super situational. You need creatures to be swinging at you, and then you have to have Ink Shield in your hand and the 5-mana up to cast it. I think all this leads to an ultimate card that is going to underperform in a lot of situations and require you to waste a lot of mana at times, because sometimes you're going to hold up this 5 mana. Nothing happens, and you might not have another instant in your hand to cast, so you just waste 5 mana. And you don't want to be wasting 5 mana in a format like Commander, where it's super important to be mana efficient.
Well, it's like, if anyone ever played Super Smash Bros., it's like when you just kind of spam the counter button on your sword fighter, but when they actually hit you and you get to like parry it and smack them back, it's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, and Ink Shield, I think one of the other coolest things about it is we're not just fogging. I don't think fogs are that cool. But if they hit you, they're like, all right, let's just say they crate a hoof, and they get in for you, let's say, 132 damage.
You're like, let's just say, and then the biggest attack card in the format.
Yeah, let's just say crate a hoof.
Let's just pick one.
And let's just say 132 damage coming your way, Ink Shield. 100. Now you make 132 2-1 flyers.
It's like coming back at you, but double. And you could also just kill everybody.
Yes, it's just double the damage. I mean, I think that Ink Shield is an absolutely it's such a big, giant, splashy version of fog, which fog is whatever, right? Like, I'm not excited.
Fog is horrible.
I will say, I was just going to say, I'm not excited when people cast fog. But in Commander, I actually am. Because when I see it, it's like, oh, it's fog!
They went there.
I got saved by darkness the other day.
We had a game with like 3 fogs in it, and I was like so done with it after the first one.
Somebody darknessed and literally saved me. I also lost to Dawn Charm the other day. Somebody Dawn Charmed, and I was like, oh, crap, I don't get to kill you. And it was even funnier because they had a foreign Dawn Charm, so we couldn't read it. So they were sitting there like, yeah, I'm dead. Oh, wait, hold on. They picked up their phone to like double check what it does. Like, yeah, Dawn Charm, I'll save myself. It was such a good moment. It was such a cool, fun moment because like that's not what they use their Dawn Charm for. They try and save their team with it.
Yeah, so like fogs are so bad, but they create like such like exciting in-game moments that they're like good for the game. So a lot of people go for this, and that's why a lot of people love Ink Shield, and it's why I almost kind of gave up on hating on it in terms of the power level, because people just love it too much because it's freaking cool.
It's super cool. Yeah, I guess I ultimately I came around in this small little discussion. I came around that fogs are actually pretty cool in Commander because of how big and splashy their effects can be,
except for Constant Mists, which will never be cool
because it's so many fogs, and it's not even unexpected. After the first one, and it goes back to their hand.
It's just an emblem, and you're like,
it's not it's not unexpected anymore.
So with an asterisk, fogs are cool.
I mean, even Spore Frog is cool.
Except if you have Carador or Marin.
I mean, it can be frustrating, but it's still cool.
Spore Frog's hilarious.
It's so cool.
It's so cute. And you mentioned Atali, and this is kind of like the spell version of Atali. It's Fevered Suspicion. You're gonna flip until you hit a spell for each opponent, and then it rebounds. And you're paying 8 mana for this. So you're paying 8 mana for 6 random things, and you don't even know what they are, but you're excited to do it. This is the spell that I've been the most excited to cast probably in recent memory. It's just kind of like, I cannot wait for something, and then you play it.
Yeah, exactly. I played this card too. Like you said, I think one of the biggest weaknesses of this card is ultimately that it doesn't hit you. I think if this card hit you, it would be a lot more playable, like, because getting cards off your own deck which has synergy with what you're doing is a lot stronger. It's tough to synergize with your opponent's decks. I mention that all the time. That's why play your opponent's stuff spells aren't necessarily the strongest. But like you said, we're back to the random flip. Like we mentioned this earlier in the video.
It's a Tali and it's a Valky. It's like those two combined.
Yes, and when you're doing the randomness factor, it makes something special, right? Because it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm spending 8 mana. And ultimately, I don't know what I get. I could get 3 Landwehr Elf type effects, little tiny dorks. Or I could get a Tali. I could get Maelstrom Nexus, and I could get Doubling Season.
Could even be a boat.
It could even be a boat. It could be literally any card from the deck, especially if you don't know what they're playing. Like, oh yeah, they're playing an elf deck, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to hit Craterhoof. We don't know what we're flipping off the top.
Yeah, turns out humans get big time dopamine from the random payoffs.
All right, this next one. Whew, this is a cool card. You nailed this one.
Pretty swingy.
BZ put this one on the list. It's Rite of Replication. This is 4 mana, copy a target creature, get a copy of it.
Which is decent.
But if you kick it for 5 more mana, boom. How about instead of 1, you get 5. 5 of whatever the best creature on the battlefield is. There are so many cards where this is big, giant, and silly with. Avengers and the card, completely silly with. Like, oh, I'm like 5 of them, 5 of the plants. And now whenever I play a land, all my plants, let's just say I had only 5, let's just say I had 10 lands, whatever. That's the number. It's around what you need to cast Rite of Replication. So it's like, okay, get it? 5 of them. Okay, they all make 10 of 50 plants, and I'll play 1 land, put 5 counters on each of them. How much power did I just make? Everything this card does is so big and so splashy. I have seen you kick this and copy Nyx Bloom Ancient while you had a bunch of treasures. Silly. All of your treasures were
thousands.
We're sacrificing for a bajillion mana.
It's like literally thousands of mana.
It was so stupid. I think it was like 256 or something. It was. I think that was the action up. It's like,
yeah, they had like 10 treasures.
What is going on? What is actually going on in this game?
Really, really hilarious. Nyx Bloom Ancient couldn't have even made this list, but Rite of Replication, also the factor that the coolness adds up to is like opponents can still have the thing, and you could copy their thing, and with like a haste enabler or whatever. I did this play like 10 years ago, and I still remember it. I did this on a Inferno Titan, and they had haste, and I just won the game, and it was like super cool.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't even necessarily matter what you're doing. You could even copy a legendary creature like the new Atali and just get all those triggers. Like, okay, I only technically get to keep 1 Atali, but we're flipping until we hit the top 5 non-lands of our library. Let's just keep going, and I'm gonna play every single one of them.
And what better way to punish the boring, couldn't be further from this list, Grey Merchant of Asphodel that didn't kill you? You should have gone for the head, and you make 5 of them, and you just win the game.
Oh my god, it's so much damage.
Because it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 times 5. It's 50, right?
It's 50
if you have no devotion.
Yes, and you could be playing a mono blue deck and do that. You can kill
That's what you get.
No, it's even how cool is the idea of killing someone with your devotion to black in your mono blue deck. Come on. Everything about Rite of Replication absolutely screams cool.
If it can make Grey Merchant of Asphodel interesting, I'm in. If you're looking for like commanders that sort of encapsulate this coolness, awesome, fun vibe, we did the 7 most fun commanders in the whole format, which I think you'd be interested in seeing right now. You can click it right now.
Go check it out. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.